father was one who had, I looked at him as having endless energy. If he wasn't working, he was at home building furniture, beds, whatever he could. He would always be busy, always busy. So I actually looked at him as just this Goliath that worked and worked and worked.
Melbourne Water had promised him work, and he was digging dams for farmers, and 6 days a week and long hours, worked his butt off to get ahead.
There was no Sunday without going to church. Absolutely not in the Dehaan household. So we'd all go off to church and we'd come home and we'd have lunch. And then sometimes on a Sunday, depending on where Dad was with his jobs, he'd very proudly take us and we'd all drive down and Dad would start the machine up and the boys would be allowed to have a sit and a look.
My earliest memories of my father's business was when he bought his first dragline. He was really proud and we were all really proud for him, and often on weekends or holidays, always at the end of the day, he would put me in the bucket of the dragline and take me up and spin me around, and it was just, that was a highlight for me. I mean, if you tried to do something like that these days, he probably would have ended up in prison, but
by the end of the day, he'd either gone through a packet of cigarettes or he'd gone through a packet of matches. And we used to do this thing where he'd say, okay, well, here's an empty packet, go and fill it up with clay or dirt, which I did. And then I'd get back on the catwalk and he'd say, throw it as far away as you can. So I did that, and then he had this ability to be able to pull the bucket in really close and then just let it go. And he would land the middle tooth of the bucket, basically right on top of the empty packet of cigarettes or whatever, and so he was pretty good at it.
Those years in between were filled with nothing but work for Dad. I cannot remember, I think I was 13 before we went on a first holiday. Dad worked all holidays.
And I said to Dad when I got home, I said, I want to come and work with you because it's something that I'd wanted to do. I started with him in January of 1970. We had a lovely job to do along the Yarra, laying bluestone underwater. So that was hard yakka.
I had a job in Portland, Alcoa, and I needed someone to sort of help me with the contract, and then Jan said he would be interested. And I got to know Jan, and I quite liked him. We got on pretty well together, and we decided to start Jaydo. And that was the beginning of it.
I think they just took the JA from Jan Excavation and took the DO from W. Dole and Associates.
they had to put a letter in between, and they put the letter Y, so Jaydo.
Beginning, they actually worked for us. When they left school, they actually started working for us. And that's how they picked up the know-how and, you know. And that's what Jan wanted in any case. Jan wanted the boys to follow up in the business. Dad
said, well, if you don't have a job, I mean, you've got to go back to school. So, or you can come and work for me. So I didn't really want to go back to school. My teachers didn't really want me to go back to school. They thought it might be best that I go and do something else as well. Started working with Dad.
When we were in Portland, for instance, Dirk was about 16, was going into 17, and they slept in a little bungalow right next to the garage. And of course, you got the little service truck and whatever else, so sometimes late at night I had to still service things to get the tools ready or whatever it was. And he'd to go on to bed, and you're trying to be as quiet as possible, and all of a sudden you hear Dirk, "Bill, will you shut up? Will you making all that bloody noise, blah, blah, blah." So I said, "Yeah, fair enough, but it won't be long, mate, won't be long." About 9:30 it was. And 10 minutes later, I was nearly finished, and he started again, so I just went in there, and he was sleeping in a sleeping bag on one of them little stretchers. I just picked the whole lot up and turned him upside down. My foreman at the time, he actually rang my dad and said, "Look, you know, I just don't think this kid's really going to cut it. Maybe you should take him back to Melbourne." And I said, after a while, I said, "Nick, you can't do that, mate. You've got to stay with it." Anyway, the next time it took a bit longer, and he came back and he ran over to the laser box. That's why I rang up his dad and I said, "Come on, James, take him home, mate. He's no good to me now." But my dad pleaded with him to stick with me and sort of like at least try and teach me something.
which he did, and that foreman, Bill Schroeder, ended up staying with us until he retired and ended up working with both Peter and I for many, many years. So.
Bob and Peter were more workers. Dirk was never the best of workers.
Then there was Bill Dole, the DO in the Jaydo. I think he sacked me once or twice as well.
He was more on the business side of it. And that's how it turned out a perfect setup.
If you didn't like Peter, there was something wrong. Something wrong with you. He was pretty easy going.
Pete's a pleaser.
Dirk was different.
And Dirk, love him dearly. I think he's probably got a bit of my character, a bit feistier. We'll have a go and we'll take it on.
I started working for them when I was 18. I thought I'll go and have a crack and work with my brothers. So.
And of course it has its challenges too, if your own kids work for you. Dad is the boss, and sometimes it was not always easy.
And you got 4 brothers working in the one business. I wanted to kill them. We would go to parties, and you'd be talking work. You could never get away from it. It was just really, really hard. So, and I wasn't ready for that.
I wasn't around for long because I wanted to go a different direction, and I did.
But one thing I know very, very clearly is that Dad loved his sons. He was so incredibly proud of them.
Jane was a very happy character. And don't forget, Jane had a good wife behind him too. Harry was a top girl.
He was always a great man to work with.
But yeah, there was no such thing as tardiness, you know.
His word was his word. If he was going to be there at 9 o'clock, he was there at 10 to 9.
If you build it, it has to be built right, 100% right.
Do it the way it's supposed to be. We never cut corners.
Certainly gave us a very good work ethic.
Prided himself on honesty and integrity.
If we're going to go broke, let's do it on our own terms.